This is 7 News at 4:30.
And we have breaking news here first at 4:30. The National Weather Service now confirming 2 EF1 tornadoes hit the Cape yesterday. One touchdown in Barnstable, the other in Yarmouth.
Actually, so it was Barnstable, Yarmouth, and then the second one in Harwich,
okay.
Right? Okay, so it's all very close, Ryan. And we're going to start off with meteorologist Josh Worcester with more on exactly what the National Weather Service said.
Yeah, so what they said was it was one single thunderstorm that produced 2 separate tornadoes. So the first one touched down, it picked back up, and then it dropped again. So here was the first one, the Yarmouth tornado. And it's really no surprise. Yarmouth and Harwich are the 2 that we're talking about because those are the towns that were likely the hardest hit with these. So the first one was an EF1 tornado, winds to 110 miles an hour. It was on the ground for 10 minutes. So just before the noon hour, that was the water spout coming onto shore. We saw that video and it made its way onto shore. It became a tornado and then lasted for about 10 minutes, covered just over 5.5 miles. And this is actually now the longest track tornado to ever move across the Cape. Again, tornadoes on the Cape, pretty rare to begin with. This now the longest one that we've seen. It was 250 yards wide. The path taking it from Kelmis or Barnstable to South Yarmouth. That is the track from the National Weather Service. The second one is Harwich, same thing, an EF1 tornado, winds to 110 miles an hour. This one on the ground for a shorter period of time, only 5 minutes, covered 2 and about 3/4 miles, 250 yards wide again, and it really just affected Harwich, going from the southwest side of town to the northeast side of town. So it was a very strong EF1, winds to 110 miles an hour, so almost to that EF2 category with this one. And again, these are the last tornadoes on the Cape. You have to go back almost 40 years to get one as strong as this one. But as far as length and path on the ground, the one in Yarmouth or going through Yarmouth will be the longest one on record on the Cape.
Thank you, Josh. And today we're getting our first look inside that Yarmouth motel that had its roof ripped off. Buildings and health inspectors there called out to the Cape Sands Inn. As Josh mentioned, these tornadoes covered about 5.5 miles. And
the governor touring the damage today. Thousands of people across the Cape are still without power. Crews are working tirelessly to restore electricity in several towns. Our Team 7 coverage continues now with 7's Nathalie Pozo, who is live for us in Chatham with the very latest there. Nathalie?
Well, Jadian, more than 24,000 people still without power here on the Cape following yesterday's, now we know, 2 tornadoes that ripped through this area. We've been showing you the video since yesterday of that motel in Yarmouth. You could see the tornado there just ripping the roof off of the Cape Sands Inn. The rooms exposed, and we actually got a look inside of those rooms today for the first time. Cell phone video there just showing the destruction, the debris, and just the insulation just hanging there from inside of those rooms. Again, just an absolute miracle that nobody was hurt who was staying at that motel at the time. We want to take you over to Harwich as well. That's where the governor was earlier today surveying the damage. We are dealing with a cleanup there and, of course, several other towns along the Cape. A lot of downed trees and down power lines is what people were dealing with here yesterday following the aftermath of that tornado. And then again, just cleaning up today as we were making our way around the Cape. The sound of chainsaws and wood chippers and generators just filling the air here. Like we said, the governor was on the Cape surveying the damage today, and he says they are sending all of the resources to the Cape to hopefully have everything up and running by Friday.
The 3 big things we're going to need to do is find them more equipment that's able to do some of the work associated with debris removal and then the breaking down of the debris. The second piece is helping them deal with some of the issues associated with all of the debris and the damage that currently exists on private property that's not on public property. And then third, doing whatever we need to do to help with the cleanup process to ensure that the utilities have the ability to get homes and businesses powered back up again.
The governor also adding that if needed, he will deploy the National Guard here to Cape Cod. Like I said, we've been making our way across the Cape today, just talking to homeowners who are cleaning up. And I just have to mention what a great attitude everyone here has. While we were conducting interviews, they were smiling as they were talking about being out here, having to chop up trees and haul things away, telling me that they're just grateful that with all of the devastation that they're seeing here, that no one was hurt. That is the very latest here in Chatham. Nathalie Pozo, 7 News.
And the tornadoes leaving a trail of trouble. Officials say the cleanup effort could take weeks, and people in South Yarmouth saying that they've never seen anything like it. 7's John Coco has more from that area on the efforts to pick up the pieces.
People in this South Yarmouth neighborhood cleaning up any way they can after a tornado tore through the area Tuesday.
Geez, it's really bad. And if you go all around this area here, it must have just come in. And it's everywhere. These trees are down.
This morning, people living here almost in tears.
Devastating. Devastating, you know. I've never seen nothing like this.
A chimney knocked off a home, bricks scattered in the front yard. Another home, part of its roof shredded. Massive trees snapped like toothpicks, one landing on this house.
This is what I got, the trees down. I have a hole in the roof, so I've got plenty of damage.
The question today, where to start? With entire power poles ripped down, part of one ending up in the windshield of this pickup truck.
Yeah, we were in the house when it hit. Yeah, it just came all of a sudden and bang.
While the storm moved in quickly, taking care of all this will take much longer.
It's going to take weeks, I think, just to get these trees cut up and off the wires. You know, it's going to take weeks, I think.
And this is just one more example of the damage we're seeing in this area. It gives you an idea of what people are dealing with this morning. In South Yarmouth, John Coco, 7 News.
So the cleanup is also underway in Chatham. Crews are working to restore power to that area. Sky 7 HD over the scene this afternoon. People in Chatham and Harwich dealing with damage, including toppled trees and all that debris. 7's Byron Burnett continues our coverage from Harwich.
The sound of cleanup on the Cape after a tornado ripped through Chatham.
It just came so quickly. We got the warning on our phones and it just happened.
Alyssa Starkweather clearing her yard after the punishing storm ripped limbs and branches from a giant oak tree in her front yard.
The tornado just came through, took out all these trees, knocked it into the road.
And it was a close call for her father-in-law. He had just pulled into his driveway and was still in his van when the tornado hit.
I think I was more stunned than frightened. It was just, I'd never seen that before. I'd never experienced that.
In Harwich, crews were clearing away trees that toppled over onto houses and downed power lines, leaving thousands of residents in the dark.
I had to go to Dennis for coffee. Me and hundreds of other people went to the same place, so It took a little while.
And the owner of this pie shop in Chatham says she had 25 customers in her store when she saw the twister roaring down her street.
Told everybody to hit the floor, and they did. Everything just started flying right down the street. You know, chairs and picnic table went into the driveway out front. It was quite scary. Trees.
Many Cape residents have a lot of cleanup work ahead of them after this violent storm, but everyone's grateful no one was hurt. In Harwich, I'm Byron Barnett, 7 News.
And coming up here on Just One Station, our coverage of the Cape Cod tornadoes continues. Ahead of 5 o'clock, we'll hear from a woman who was inside the Yarmouth Motel when the roof was torn off there. And when the tornadoes hit, no other station stayed on as long as 7 News. We went on when the warning was first issued, and you saw the storm unfold live right here on 7. Stay with the news station at WHDH.com for the latest on all the cleanup there.
Also here on 7, it was a busy night for first responders after those storms hit yesterday. Crews battling flames at an auto body shop in Orleans. You can see here the heavy smoke. Crews were able to put the fire out, but several vehicles were damaged.
On 7 News now, the family of a teenager who took his own life after being encouraged to commit suicide is trying to keep other families from going through the same pain. Conrad Roy's mother joining state lawmakers today to introduce a bill that would criminalize suicide coercion. 7's Kimberly Bookman has that story.
I don't think anyone understands the difficulty this has been on my family.
5 years after her son, Conrad Roy, took his own life because his girlfriend, Michelle Carter, encouraged him to kill himself, Lynn Roy and her family don't want any other families to go through the same pain.
I think it's just important that with young people and people with texts, just knowing like everything is recorded, everything's there. I think people shouldn't be texting anything bad to anybody.
They have joined forces with legislators on Beacon Hill to create a new law that would make suicide by coercion a crime.
His story exposed a major gap in our law that we need to fix.
Conrad's case was groundbreaking because there wasn't a charge for his girlfriend's actions. She was convicted of involuntary manslaughter. But this law would change that, making sure anyone who intentionally encourages someone to commit suicide face up to 5 years in jail.
We need to set boundaries around what is and what is not acceptable behavior.
It is named Conrad's Law, and the hope is that it will prevent others from his fate.
So I'm freaking excited. My heart is so full, and I'm so proud of my son.
I know he's smiling, just like he'd be getting a kick out of this.
Now, this bill was just filed this week, but lawmakers hope it will pass by next July. They tell us that more than 40 states already have similar laws on the books. On Beacon Hill, Kimberly Bookman, 7 News.
We are following more news here today. We can tell you that Facebook says it's under antitrust investigation by the U.S. Federal Trade Commission. This coming as the FTC announced a record-breaking $5 billion fine against the social network. Facebook has been facing years of privacy concerns, including exposing up to 87 million users' personal data to a political firm.
This enforcement action provides immediate protections for Facebook users, and the $5 billion civil penalty will deter future privacy and data security violations not only by Facebook, but by all other companies in the United States.
And authorities say Facebook also broke the law by using that data to target ads to users.
The governor of Puerto Rico could be stepping down. Ricardo Rossello is reportedly expected to resign sometime today. He came under fire earlier this month after leaked communications showed his use of language many call profane, homophobic, and misogynistic. Hundreds of thousands of Puerto Ricans taking to the streets now in the past 12 days or so, demanding his resignation. The governor had previously said he would not resign.
Boris Johnson addressing his Brexit plan as he takes office today as the new British Prime Minister.
I have every confidence that in 99 days' time we will have cracked it. But you know what? We aren't going to wait 99 days because the British people have had enough of waiting. The time has come to act.
So Johnson also met with the Queen today. He takes over for Theresa May, who was criticized for not being able to broker a Brexit deal. And Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg says she's very much alive in response to her recent health concerns. The 86-year-old made the comments Tuesday on NPR, adding that her health is stable and she has no plans to step down. Earlier this year, Justice Ginsburg took a break from the court after undergoing cancer surgery.
A Pennsylvania appeals court granting rapper Meek Mill a new trial. A panel of judges throwing out his conviction in a decades-old drugs and gun case due to new evidence of police corruption. Mill was sent to prison in 2017 for violating his probation, but he was set free last year after several high-profile figures pushed for his release. One of those people was Patriots owner Robert Kraft, you'll remember. He visited Mill in prison and has teamed up with him to advocate for criminal justice reform.
Still ahead here on 7 News, a hero for the Marshfield High School girls soccer team now needs a hero of her own after being diagnosed with a kidney disease.
And ahead at 5 o'clock.
And it was comfortable today after all that severe weather that we saw yesterday. And guess what? Sticking around through the rest of this work week. The latest details coming up.
Sorry about that, Jackie. Ahead at 5 o'clock, Cambridge police are looking for the man accused of flashing a woman. And then we have this video to show what she did next.
And we are staying on top of that breaking news. The National Weather Service now confirming 2 tornadoes on the Cape yesterday. Well, the latest on the cleanup efforts coming up right here on the news station.